Mike Tyson made over $400 million in his boxing career. Today, he's not broke, but he lost almost all of it. Nicolas Cage earned $150 million and ended up in massive debt. But the weirdest part? The trap that got them is probably sitting in your life right now, and you have no idea it's there. You know what's crazy? We think money problems disappear once you hit that $1 million mark. That's the dream, right? But some of the wealthiest people on earth are one bad decision away from losing everything. And they keep falling into the same traps over and over again. Today, I'm breaking down 9 money traps that drain millionaires, showing you exactly how to dodge them whether you're making 6 figures or just starting out. And stick around, because the 9th one is the trap that almost destroyed someone very close to me. Let me tell you something that might blow your mind. Making money is actually the easy part. Keeping it, that's where most people fail. And it doesn't matter if you're making $50,000 a year or $5 million. The traps are the same, just with more zeros attached. Think of wealth like water in your hands. Getting the water is one thing, but if your fingers are spread wide open, it doesn't matter how much water you pour in. It's all going to slip through. That's what happens to most people who get rich. Their hands are open and they don't even realize it. You've probably heard stories of lottery winners going broke within a few years. Athletes signing $100 million contracts and filing for bankruptcy before they turn 40. Tech entrepreneurs selling their companies for crazy amounts and somehow ending up with less money than they started with. The problem isn't that these people are stupid. The problem is that wealth comes with a completely different set of challenges that nobody prepares you for. And if you don't know these traps exist, you're going to step right into them. But here's what most people don't know about the first trap. Money trap number 1, lifestyle inflation on steroids. Here's how this one works. You get a raise. Maybe you land a big client. Maybe your business finally takes off. And what's the first thing most people do? They upgrade their life. Bigger apartment, nicer car, better restaurants. And it feels amazing, right? But here's where it gets dangerous. When you're making more money, the upgrades get bigger too. You're not just moving from a Toyota to a Honda anymore. You're jumping from a regular house to a mansion. From commercial flights to private jets. From a normal watch to a Rolex collection. There's this story about MC Hammer. Yeah, the can't touch this guy. At his peak, he was making $30 million a year. $30 million. But his monthly expenses were around $500,000. He had 200 people on his payroll. He bought a $12 million mansion. He had 17 cars. And here's the wildest part. He was buying gifts for random people he'd meet just because he could. Within a few years of his peak, bankrupt. All of it gone. The math is simple but brutal. If you make $100,000 a year and spend $90,000, you save $10,000. If you make $1 million and spend $900,000, you still save $100,000. Sounds good until you realize that your lifestyle now requires that $900,000 to maintain. You're trapped in a golden cage that you built yourself. Here's how you dodge this trap. Every time your income goes up, let your savings go up faster than your spending. If you get a 20% raise, increase your savings by 30% and your lifestyle by 10%. This way, you're always building a bigger gap between what you make and what you need. But the next trap, it's even more dangerous because it targets something deeper. Money trap number 2, the status game. This one's sneaky because it plays on something deep inside us. We want people to know we're successful, and money is the easiest way to show it. But here's the problem. The status game never ends. There's always someone with a bigger house, a faster car, a more exotic vacation. And if you're trying to keep up, you're going to spend yourself into a hole. I know someone who makes $500,000 a year. Sounds like a dream, right? But he's constantly stressed about money. Why? Because he lives in a neighborhood where everyone makes $2 million a year. His kids go to schools where other parents own private jets. He feels poor even though he's in the top 1%. The status game is especially brutal for millionaires because the price tags are insane. A regular person might waste $100 trying to impress someone. A millionaire wastes $100,000. Same stupid game, just more expensive. I'm going to be honest with you. I fell into this trap myself years ago. I bought a watch I couldn't really afford because I wanted people at business meetings to take me seriously. Wore it to 3 meetings. Nobody noticed. Nobody cared. But I remembered the price every time I looked at my wrist. Made me feel sick. That watch taught me that the people worth impressing don't care what you wear. And the people who care what you wear aren't worth impressing. The way out? Realize that true wealth isn't about what people see. It's about what you own free and clear. It's about having options. It's about being able to walk away from anything that doesn't serve you. That's real status. Everything else is just an expensive performance. And speaking of expensive mistakes, wait until you hear about trap number 3. Money trap number 3. The tax bill. They forgot about. This one destroys people. You make a ton of money in 1 year. Maybe you sell a business. Maybe you have an amazing year in the market. Maybe you get a huge bonus and you feel rich. So you spend like you're rich. Then tax season comes and suddenly you owe the government 30, 40, maybe 50% of what you made. But you already spent 30% of it on that new car and that vacation and that investment property. Now you're scrambling. I've seen this happen to athletes all the time. They sign a $5 million contract and think they have $5 million to spend. But after taxes, agent fees, and other costs, they might take home $2.5 million. If they spent $3 million, they're already in debt before they even start. But here's a story you probably haven't heard. Wesley Snipes, the actor from Blade, made millions, went to prison for 3 years, not for being broke, for not paying his taxes. He thought he could outsmart the system, got bad advice, and ended up behind bars. The government doesn't care how famous you are. They want their cut. The solution? Treat taxes like a bill that's due the moment you get paid. When money hits your account, immediately move your estimated tax amount to a separate account. Don't touch it. Don't invest it. Just let it sit there until tax time. Boring? Yes. Effective? Absolutely. But even if you get the tax thing right, the next trap is waiting for you. And it's cost people billions. Money trap. Number 4, investment FOMO. Fear of missing out is powerful. And when it comes to investments, it can cost you everything. Here's how it happens. Your friend tells you about some amazing investment opportunity. Maybe it's crypto. Maybe it's real estate in some hot market. Maybe it's a startup that's about to explode. And they're making money. You see it. Everyone's talking about it. So you jump in, but you jump in late, right when the smart money is getting out. And you lose big. This happens to smart people all the time. Even millionaires who should know better. Because FOMO doesn't care about your bank account or your IQ. It just cares about that feeling that you're being left behind. Think of FOMO like being at a party where everyone's dancing to a song you don't know. You feel awkward standing there, so you jump in and start moving even though you have no idea what you're doing. That's fine at a party. But with investments, you're dancing with your life savings. Here's a wild one. During the dot-com bubble, there was this doctor who had built up $2 million over 20 years of careful saving and investing. Solid, boring stuff. Then he saw his neighbors getting rich off internet stocks. Companies with no profits, just ideas. He pulled all his money out and dumped it into tech stocks in 1999. Within 2 years, he'd lost 80% of it. 20 years of discipline destroyed in 18 months of FOMO. The antidote is simple, but hard to follow. Only invest in things you understand. And I mean really understand, not just what someone told you at a party. Set your investment strategy when you're calm and rational, not when you're excited or scared. And stick to it. Boring beats exciting when it comes to building wealth. But what about your business expenses? That's where trap 5 lives. Money trap number 5. Keeping up with business expenses. When your business grows, your expenses need to grow too. That's normal. You hire people, you rent office space, you invest in equipment. All good. But here's where it gets messy. A lot of business owners start confusing growth expenses with luxury expenses. They lease a fancy office in an expensive building when a normal office would work fine. They buy top-of-the-line equipment when mid-range would do the job. They hire too many people too fast. The justification is always the same. We need to look professional, we need to compete, we need to show we're serious, but what they're really doing is burning cash to feed their ego. I know a consultant who was making great money. 6 figures, working from home, low overhead. Then he decided to take things to the next level. He rented an office, hired an assistant, got all the fancy furniture and tech. His expenses tripled. His income stayed the same. 2 years later, he was back to working from home, but now with debt he didn't have before. There's this company called Webvan from the late 90s. They raised hundreds of millions to deliver groceries. Sounds normal now, right? But instead of starting small and testing the model, they built giant warehouses, bought fleets of trucks, hired thousands of people. They burned through $800 million in 3 years and went bankrupt. Today, companies like Instacart do the same thing successfully because they started lean. Same idea, different approach. One survived, one didn't. The smart move? Keep your business lean until the revenue absolutely demands growth. And even then, grow slowly. Test things. Make sure the return justifies the investment. Remember that fancy stuff impresses you more than it impresses your clients. Now, you might think diversification protects you from all this, but Trap 6 proves otherwise. Money. Trap number 6. The diversification trap. Wait, isn't diversification supposed to be good? Yes and no. There's smart diversification and there's dumb diversification. Smart diversification is spreading your investments across different asset classes to reduce risk. Dumb diversification is spreading yourself so thin that you can't focus on anything. This happens a lot with successful entrepreneurs. They build one business, make some money, and then start thinking they can build 10 businesses. Or they invest in 20 different startups. Or they buy real estate in 5 different cities. The problem is that managing wealth takes attention. And when your attention is divided across too many things, stuff falls through the cracks. You miss warning signs. You don't see problems until they're too big to fix easily. You end up being mediocre at 10 things instead of excellent at 3. Imagine juggling. Juggling 3 balls? Learnable. Juggling 5 balls? Hard but possible with practice. Juggling 20 balls? You're just going to drop everything and look stupid. That's dumb diversification. There's this real estate investor I know who owned properties in 8 different states. Sounds impressive until you hear that he was constantly flying around, dealing with problems, working with different contractors, different regulations, different markets. His life was chaos, and his returns weren't even that good because he couldn't manage everything properly. The better approach? Master one thing before moving to the next. Make sure each investment or business can run well without constant attention before adding more. Diversification should reduce stress, not increase it. But stress brings us to trap 7, and this one gets personal. Money trap number 7. The emotional spending spiral. Rich people have bad days too. They get stressed, they get bored, they get sad, and when emotions run high, they spend. But when a regular person has a bad day and spends $100 on stuff they don't need, it's not great, but it's manageable. When a millionaire has a bad day and spends $10,000 or $100,000, that's a different story. I'm talking about buying cars when you're feeling down, booking luxury vacations when you're stressed, shopping for expensive clothes or jewelry or art when you're bored, investing in risky ventures when you're feeling invincible. The amounts get bigger as the wealth grows, but the pattern is the same. using money as a band-aid for emotional problems. Here's something I don't talk about much. My father was a successful businessman, made good money. But whenever work stressed him out, he'd buy something. A new gadget. New tools he'd never use. Once he bought a boat. We lived nowhere near water. That boat sat in our driveway for 3 years before he sold it at a massive loss. I watched him do this for years. And you know what? I caught myself doing the same thing in my 20s. Bad day at work? Buy something. Felt lonely? Buy something. It took me a long time to realize I was trying to fill emotional holes with physical objects. Doesn't work. Never works. The trap gets deeper because expensive purchases create a temporary high. It feels good in the moment, but the feeling fades and you're left with the thing you bought and a smaller bank account. So you buy again and again. It becomes a cycle. Breaking this trap requires honest self-reflection. When you want to buy something expensive, pause. Ask yourself if you're solving a real problem or just feeding a feeling. Wait 24 hours. Talk to someone. Journal about it. Most of the time, the urge passes and you realize you didn't need it. But sometimes, the damage comes from other people, which brings us to trap 8. Money trap number 8. Bad partnerships and deals. This one is huge. A bad business partnership or a bad deal can wipe out years of careful wealth building in months. Here's how it usually happens. Someone you know, maybe even someone you trust, comes to you with an opportunity. They need capital. They need a partner. They need someone to sign on something. And because you have money and because you trust them, you say yes. But you don't do proper due diligence. You don't get everything in writing. You don't plan for what happens if things go wrong. You just trust that it'll work out. Then it doesn't work out. And now you're stuck in a legal mess, or you've lost money, or you're tied to a failing business that's dragging you down. This happened to a friend who invested in a restaurant with a college buddy. They didn't have a proper partnership agreement. They didn't define roles clearly. They didn't have exit strategies. Within a year, they weren't speaking. Within 2 years, both had lost money and their friendship was dead. 20 years of friendship destroyed over a business that lasted less time than most relationships. But here's a crazy story. The guy who created Snapchat, Evan Spiegel, got sued by one of his former fraternity brothers who claimed he helped create the app. They settled for over $150 million. Whether the guy deserved it or not, that's $150 million that could have been avoided with clear agreements from the start. The lesson? Business is business. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with family, friends, or strangers. Get everything in writing. Do your homework. Plan for failure even when you're hoping for success. And never invest or partner in something where you can't afford to lose everything you put in. Which leads us to the biggest trap of all. Money trap number 9. No real financial plan. This is the big one. The trap that catches almost everyone. And it's the one I mentioned at the beginning that almost destroyed someone close to me. You know what's crazy? Most millionaires don't have a real financial plan. They have money, they have investments, they have businesses, but no actual plan that ties it all together.
Yes.
They don't know exactly how much they need for retirement. They don't have clear goals written down. They don't review their finances regularly. They just wing it and hope it works out. This is like being a pilot flying through clouds with no instruments. You might feel like you're going straight, but you could be upside down and not even know it until you crash. My uncle made millions in real estate during the boom years. Millions. But he never had a plan. Never wrote down goals. Never tracked where the money was going. He just kept buying properties and flipping them. Then 2008 hit. The market crashed. And because he had no plan, he had no safety net. He had all his money tied up in properties he couldn't sell. Lost almost everything. Had to start over at 55 years old. If he'd had a plan, if he'd diversified properly, if he'd kept reserves, he would have survived. Maybe even thrived by buying cheap during the crash. But without a plan, he was flying blind. A real financial plan means knowing your numbers. What are your monthly expenses? What's your net worth? What's your savings rate? Where are you investing and why? What are your short-term goals and long-term goals? When can you retire? What does retirement even look like for you? It means having someone or something keeping you accountable, whether that's a financial advisor, a spouse, a business partner, or just regular check-ins with yourself. It means adjusting the plan as life changes, because life will change. You'll make more money or less money. Markets will go up and down. Your goals will evolve, and your plan needs to evolve with it. The people who keep their wealth long-term, they have a plan. They know where they're going. They know how they're going to get there. And they check regularly to make sure they're still on track. Here's the thing that connects all these traps. They're not really about money. They're about psychology. They're about ego, fear, status, emotion, and lack of discipline. You can have all the money in the world, but if you can't control your impulses, if you let your ego drive your decisions, if you chase feelings instead of building systems, you're going to lose it. Money is just a tool. But like any tool, it can build or destroy depending on how you use it. A hammer in skilled hands builds houses. A hammer in reckless hands breaks things. Same hammer, different outcome. The millionaires who stay millionaires, they're not smarter than everyone else. They're not luckier. They just have better habits and stronger discipline. They've built systems that protect them from themselves. And here's the really good news. You don't need to be a millionaire to implement these lessons. Whether you're making $40,000 or $4 million, the same principles apply. Live below your means. Don't play status games. Plan for taxes. Invest wisely. Keep your expenses lean. Focus your efforts. Control emotional spending. Be careful with partnerships. And have a real plan. Look, building wealth is hard. Keeping wealth is harder. But it's not impossible. You just need to be aware of the traps and make conscious decisions to avoid them. Remember that lifestyle inflation will sneak up on you if you let it. The status game is unwinnable, so don't play. Taxes are real and they're coming. FOMO is expensive. Business expenses can spiral out of control. Too much. Diversification is as bad as too little. Emotional spending never ends well. Bad partnerships can destroy you. And without a plan, you're just hoping things work out. But if you stay disciplined, if you build good systems, if you focus on what actually matters instead of what looks good, you'll not only build wealth, but keep it. And that's the real win. If this helped you see money differently, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.